This is a sound test. Sound test. Hi, hi. Sorry for the delay. We had some hardware issues. Let's hope they are fixed. Test, test. Stefan, can you hear me? Yes. Cool. See you in some minutes. So, hi everybody on stream and in the audience. I hope you can hear me. 5 minutes ago, audio worked on stream. Good luck is we have in person we don't have audio technical problems. Good. Yeah, welcome to our first hybrid in-person stream meetup since 2.5 years. Last one was February 2020. Yeah, now June 2022. Let's hope we can continue with that in the next months. So give me a moment. I need to find PowerPoint. So thank you all for joining. Um, the people on stream and the people here. Hi, why is everybody sitting in the last row here? Yeah, you some things never change. Yeah, as always, this meetup is organized by .NET Devs AT. We are a non-profit organization about sharing knowledge about .NET, and we have all four people. So all four of us are here. So Stefan, Raul, Martin, let's jump here. That's the one chance, the first chance since months that you all got. Wave to the camera, wave to the people in the back. So yeah, we are the .NET SAT. We are organizing these meetups every month. We have a website. Uh, Now we are blocking all QR codes for the people that could use QR codes. So we have a website. We are on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube for the people that's watching now. It's obvious, and we have a Slack channel. Um, I post the links in a moment in the chat. Multitasking. All a little bit rough today. So where's my chat? Good. So there we were. Yeah. I also want to thank our sponsors. Now our slide deck isn't moving. Rusty after 2.5 years, only remote presentation to do something in person. So thanks to our sponsors, to Every, where we are also today at location, and Rubicon, and also thanks to JetBrains who's sponsoring um, for every meetup a 12 months product license. And yeah, we will raffle them and raffle one on stream and one for the participants here in person. So one of you can win one, and please use it because they messaged me again that we don't use the codes they send us. And yeah, for the online streamer type chat brains in the text afterwards, and we will refer one of the license. And if the person who won last meetup is in the stream, you didn't you didn't send me an email that I can send you the license code. So please get in touch with me. Also, what we also raffle, but for the people here in person, we still have some Scott Hanselman t-shirts to oh yeah, hey friends, and we have Rave on the camera. Okay, now the camera is something has the camera. Sorry, stream. Um, yeah, um, t-shirts from Scott Hanselman. We bought some to support his cause, and yeah, they can. We will raffle one of them. So make the screen sharing right again. Yeah, news come from the community. Not much. The usual stuff. We are part of the .NET Foundation, and um, one thing is that they have this .NET virtual user group where user groups around the world posts their meetups. So if you need some .NET content additionally, there you can get one. Um, Stefan has probably some selection of very interesting meetups in the future already, what he wants to attend. So it's always good part. Good. And that was the intro. Rough. Uh, and let's start with our MSBuild after party. And with that, our moderator today is Martin. So,
Hello. So welcome for joining us here at T2 Every and remote and also on the recording if you're watching. So only a couple of weeks ago, Microsoft had this conference, the Microsoft Build conference, which is about building stuff, which is something I'm always interested in. Also, if you search for MS Build, the technical term, you will usually also find some things that I've written on Stack Overflow. So don't confuse MS Build, basically the .NET Build system, with the conference. And there have been a couple of announcements about Azure, about Windows, about Microsoft 365, but also about .NET and DevOps technologies. And something that I'm very excited about is writing applications in .NET for basically all platforms that exist. And the team that has been building Xamarin in the past has basically created a new iteration of their multi-platform app user interface system, MAUI. And since the last release of Visual Studio that was published at Build, there is now a preview tooling that can actually help you build these kinds of applications using .NET 6 and the new released MAUI generally available version. Um, the tooling is still in preview, but it's about to change. And in order to give you a short overview, we would like to play you the recording of one of the sessions where one of the team members of the Maui team gives us an update about what's happened in Maui and the roadmap ahead for the current releases and what's going to happen over the next months. And so, Andy, I'll give it to you to play the
so
video.
I tried to play now a video. Let's see if this. So we have I have sound at least, and let's.
Hello, everybody. I'm Maddie Monaquilla, and I am a product manager on the .NET Maui team, coming to you from my house to talk about .NET Maui roadmaps and updates. Now that we are released, it is build. We have .NET Maui. It's shipped. It's GA. We're very excited. And if you haven't heard of .NET Maui yet, it is our cross-platform framework for building mobile and desktop apps with .NET, with C#, with XAML, all the things you know and love. hybrid desktop apps, which we're not going to dive into too much in this talk. There's a lot of great content on it already on the internet. But really what that means is you can stick an existing Blazor app, your Blazor app that runs in the web, you can put it in a .NET MAUI app and run it on your desktop, whether that's Windows or Mac, which is really, really cool. And that's using the Windows App SDK framework under the hood on Windows, of course, and then the Mac Catalyst framework under the hood for Mac OS. So you can build fully native desktop apps for both of those platforms, whether you want to use XAML and C# and write it all native from the get-go, or if you want to take your web app and put it into the .NET MAUI app to run it natively. And of course, one thing we love talking about on the .NET team is just how productive you are with .NET. Not only with Visual Studio and the features you get from that, such as your visual diagnostic suites and XAML Hot Reload and .NET Hot Reload, but also, of course, with things we do in the SDK in .NET itself, like using Microsoft extensions, our single project framework for .NET MAUI, so you can put all of your images in one place, all your fonts in one place, not have to copy them on all the different platforms you're targeting, and it is amazing. There are a lot of things we did under the hood to make MAUI really, really awesome. And these are just some of them. One, I think the most important one, the reason MAUI took as long as it did is because we decoupled all of the platform controls from our cross-platform implementations of those controls. So it's now easier to extend and modify, so you can add different app models, such as Model View Update instead of MVVM, which is what a lot of us use in the .NET desktop world. But we also make it so that it's very, very easy for us to add target platforms in the future. So if we ever wanted to extend to something beyond the 4 that we have today, Android, iOS, Mac, and Windows, we could do that. Of course, there's a bunch of other stuff. I mean, unification with .NET is a huge thing. That's the whole reason we're able to do the Blazor hybrid goodness. And we have a lot of the things that you love from Xamarin. .NET MAUI is an evolution of Xamarin and Xamarin Forms. So Shell, which is our navigation stack that we introduced in Xamarin Forms 4. We have that in MAUI. It is amazing, and it's refactored, so it's even more performant, more consistent, and it's more maintainable for both us and you as our end developer. So with MAUI, you get a lot of things in the box and easy to get if it's not in the box. On the left here, you have a ton of things that you kind of get for free. 7 layouts, 44 views in the box with MAUI, along with our Essentials library, which is how you get all of those device-specific APIs in a cross-platform way. So things like accessing geolocation or opening a file picker or seeing the accelerometer or checking connectivity of the device. All of those things are built right into MAUI, along with our graphics library. So you can draw your own controls if you don't want to use the native ones under the hood. And then there's Xamarin Forms compatibility, and of course the amazing .NET MAUI community toolkit, which has a whole bunch of other things that you can add into your MAUI app. Another package you can just pull in on NuGet and do way more. And it's all open source, so you can go check all of it out and, of course, contribute back. There's a bunch of new capabilities when you compare MAUI to Xamarin and Xamarin Forms, including, of course, the Blazor web view. That's how all the magic with Blazor Hybrid happens. But also the ability to set an app icon, a splash screen, and add images all in a cross-platform shared way. So you can literally take a foreground image and say, this is my app icon, and the background color should be this. And that will also be my splash screen, and just do that in some XML. And then it just works on all the platforms magically. It's probably my favorite feature of MAUI, if you can't tell by how excited I am about it. And of course, there are some changes. We will talk at the end of this a little bit about how to upgrade if you are coming from Xamarin and you're not new to .NET MAUI and .NET cross-platform development altogether. But little things changed. The namespace, obviously, it's no longer using Xamarin Forms, it's using Microsoft.MAUI, but we'll talk about how to get your apps updated. The most important thing is that, no, it is not a rewrite of your application. The flavor of XAML and almost all of the APIs have remained exactly the same. There are very select ones we changed because we thought it was time for a change, and we got to undo some of the mistakes or choices we made in the past that we have grown out of. A couple examples quickly of things that we have done in MAUI to making beautiful apps super, super easy. I think shadow is my favorite. This is all you have to do to add a drop shadow to an image. You have the offset, you have the radius of the shadow, you have the opacity of it, and that's it. Like it's just the .NET bot, add a shadow to it. That's all the code you have to do. And that's of course in XAML. You can do this in C# if you prefer C#, but we use XAML by default for a lot of our examples. Same thing with adding something like a border. If you are coming from other cross-platform frameworks or from Xamarin, you know that adding a border to buttons or to certain rectangles or something was always the most difficult thing. Like you had to drop down to the native platform and add it in all these particular ways. And we have made it easy. We brought it back up to the cross-platform layer. We have all of the different stroke modifiers that you could possibly want to make your border beautiful. You have your corner radius. It's awesome. And it's all .NET MAUI. This screenshot is from Preview 9, if you can tell. We are now GA. We are no longer in Preview 9. You can do this right now in your apps. It's very exciting. One of the things that would be that it would be really incomplete of us to talk about MAUI without is our performance work we've done. So we've done a lot of performance work across the board with .NET. .NET 6 was hugely performant. .NET 7 is going to continue to be hugely performant. So we've done the same thing with MAUI. This one is the comparison of a .NET MAUI template compared to a Xamarin Forms template. Just going to click it real quick. Look how much faster the one on the right loaded up. I'm going to go back, do it one more time. Go back. What? So much faster. It's almost 35% faster than Xamarin Forms. And we've done it with big apps too, not just the default sample app. And there are still a lot of improvements. A lot of that comes from optimizations for XAML-C, the XAML compiler, and some basic changes we made under the hood, some same defaults we made to make everything a lot faster. And of course, we have the comparison to native itself. So this is a Xamarin Android app, and then the .NET Android app comes up much faster. .NET 6 Android is way faster. Way less system reflection emit is kind of the big one. If you've heard of this before, you know that's probably how we got a lot of the performance improvements. So, boom, that's it. Oh, keep playing it back. .NET MAUI, if you want to start using it today, like I mentioned at the beginning, it is in preview currently. It is in the preview branch of Visual Studio. So that's 17.3 as of right now. You can go in to the modifier for your workload installer and click off mobile development with .NET. And then the .NET MAUI preview button right down here. Check it off. That installs everything you need to get started. When 17.3 goes GA, which will be later because we just shipped 17.2, we are going to update this workload to say .NET MAUI instead of Xamarin. The checkbox is going to be on by default. And what you can start using today and what you will continue to see improvements on until we ship 17.3 GA is all of your hot tools, your hot reloads, the property pages, the publishing experience for all the different target platforms you want, and many, many more tooling updates and fixes we've made. You might be a Mac developer. If you are a Visual Studio for Mac developer, that's awesome. We are also having .NET MAUI supported on the Mac, of course. It's going to be in preview as well. So you're going to want to get the preview release of Visual Studio for Mac, which is currently 17.1. We are aiming for general availability with 17.2 Visual Studio for Mac. So it's a little bit confusing because it's the same kind of numbers, but they're not at the same time. But this would be roughly the release in the fall. And that highly depends on how many bugs we have file on us based on your feedback when you test it out. We're going to focus on the building blocks first. That's what you can start using in the preview branch now. Things like just building, deploying, debugging, and XAML hot reloading. But we're going to bring in a lot more tooling later as we continue through the release process and nail things down. If you're wondering, just a heads up, Xamarin development is totally stable with 17.0 GA on the Mac. So yes, you can keep doing Xamarin work, which kind of begs the question, you know, what does this look like, right? In the time frame that we have coming up. We've been saying May and 17.3 and 17.2 and GA and blah, 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 and .NET 7. Here is a kind of rudimentary look at our roadmap. Really where we are is here. We're in May. Happy build, everybody. We have the VS Mac 17.1 preview with MAUI and the VS 2022 on Windows 17.3 preview with MAUI. But of course, the MAUI SDK itself is GA. It has the Go Live licensing you need to start shipping apps with it. And then we will have kind of a bump in the Maui versioning over the summer when we GA the Windows tooling experience, when we have a little bit more updates for Mac, so that in the fall, you can have a full Visual Studio for Mac and Windows .NET MAUI developer experience around the same time that .NET 7 GA is out. And we've announced .NET Conf, those dates, so mark our calendars. That'll be happening in November. Very exciting. This is kind of just a slide summarizing that past slide in text. So if you go back to look at this without audio, you might be able to follow it better. But really what we're asking in May is that you start new mobile and desktop projects with .NET MAUI. If you have not, used it before, just file new, check it out, tell us how you like it. If you are currently on Xamarin or Xamarin Forms, you can start evaluating the migration and provide some feedback to us if you'd like, especially what NuGet packages aren't available yet, what doesn't look right when you finish migrating. And like I said earlier, we will talk about the Upgrade Assistant and how that works for you. So some of the things we're looking at for .NET 7, and this is obviously subject to change as all things are, but what's top of mind right now is we want to get better map support and dual screen support. But of course, better quality and performance across the board. We want to continue to fix bugs as much as possible. And improve platform interop. And that means that if you do something with a native Android or iOS or Mac library that you can't access from .NET, it doesn't have a .NET SDK, we want to make it easier for you to do those things. Got a lot of ideas about it. We'll figure it out. Look out for it in .NET 7, probably in an experimental way. There's also a lot of investigations. People ask, what about this? What about this? What about Linux? What about MVU? What about drawing? Blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of opportunities. You can check out our GitHub. You can check out the discussions tab of github.com/.net/Maui. And a lot of these things are on there. Feel free to drop in your thoughts. I mean, we just shipped GA of this thing, so we're going to get our feet on the ground and continue to listen to customer feedback, to your feedback, to the developer communities that we have both in .NET and in the greater developer ecosystem, and see where we can go next, not just .NET 7, but also .NET 8 and beyond, .NET 10,000. I don't know if we'll ever get there. Hopefully we do. If you're on Xamarin, you probably are wondering, what happens to my Xamarin apps? Great question. Well, it's part of the modern support lifecycle. So it's going to be supported 2 years from the last release, which was November. So you will have Xamarin support through November 2023. That's all you need. If you don't want to migrate to Maui right away, you don't have to. Don't feel the pressure. We would love for you to, because we think it's pretty great. And we also think that you can, start taking advantage of things with very little effort. But we get it. Some people aren't ready. That's okay. It's new. We're excited. If you do want to update right away, which you totally should because it's the best, you can keep an eye out for this summer, around the same time that the Windows tooling 17.3 goes GA. The .NET Upgrade Assistant will have support for .NET MAUI. So you might have heard of .NET Upgrade Assistant in some different contexts, getting your apps from framework to core, whether that's WPF or WinForms or some of the web stacks we have. We are extending the open source .NET Upgrade Assistant tool to support Xamarin Forms to .NET MAUI or Xamarin Native to .NET 6 native apps. It's going to update your CS proj file, that project file that tells Visual Studio what is going on in your project. It's going to move it to the modern SDK style project. It's going to change your target frameworks to be correct for .NET 6 and let you start taking advantage of the single project stuff we have. We'll change your namespaces. We'll change most of the APIs that we can kind of find and replace pretty easily. We'll do that all for you, so you don't have to do that find and replace. And then we are also going to work on a NuGet updater tool that's part of .NET Upgrade Assistant to kind of intelligently replace NuGets with ones that are from ones that are compatible with Xamarin Forms to ones that are compatible with .NET MAUI. If you are a library maintainer or someone in our community who has something on NuGet and you're worried about upgrading to .NET MAUI or supporting .NET MAUI for your customers, please, please, please reach out. My email is Maddie, M-A-D-D-Y, @Microsoft.com. And we are more than happy to chat with you, learn a lot about what's going on, what your concerns are, and kind of help you through the update process so you can get our community on Maui. So get started today. Very excited. I hope you enjoy Build and have enjoyed all of the content the teams have put together for you. These are some of the important links, but most importantly, you want to get the Visual Studio Preview, .NET 6, and of course, .NET MAUI will be installed with the Visual Studio Preview. That's all you need to get started. So thank you so much for joining me. You just heard my email, so feel free to reach out with any questions, and we'll make sure we, continue to tweet out all the great links and things that we share during Build this May, this year. So thank you, everybody.
So you didn't hear the last minute because can't use the tools. So give me a moment. First time in 2.5 years. Rusty. So podium is, yeah, we don't need a screen. So
Yeah,
should work again. So Martin, your turn.
my turn. Okay, so that was a great overview over what's happening now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about this because we have been using Xamarin a lot to develop iOS applications. We've been developing UWP applications and even back in the days Windows Store or Windows Metro applications. And so the support has been kind of wonky, to say it best, because if you do Xamarin development for UWP, you're basically not really on a supported path or like a it could work path. So personally, I'm quite excited that these things are coming together. Um, However, I would also like to invite the other people of our meetup group on the stage again. So Raul,
A-
Stefan,
and our additional
and of course
externals
our
specialists.
special speaker, Tony Poy. Unfortunately, Martina is still unavailable, but that's great. Stefan? And Andy in the middle, or
I'm the technical. I'm
he's the technical
monitoring.
guy?
I'm monitoring the chat. So if you have questions in person here or no, in person, raise your hands in chat. Put it on in the chat, and I will forward the questions then to our speakers.
So, do you have any questions on Maui, on .NET, on upcoming stuff? Anything related to build? Because I have also other questions, because I also want to know what you think, beginning with Raul. Um, have you already tried C# 11? Have you tried C# 10?
11 I don't try it yet, but I read a lot of cool stuff coming in .NET 11. So like property stuff, structure property stuff required. Ship 10, I think I use it currently in my project. But yeah, cool stuff is coming to .NET 10 and 11.
And what do you think, Stefan?
I'm especially looking forward to the read-only, not the read-only properties, the required members
Cool.
and the war string literals. Okay. Because the war string literals, they will quite facilitate testing when you test strings. And I do a bit of stuff with Roslyn, and there was a lot of testing with
So
strings
help
there.
help me again. Raw string literals. That's different in what way to normal strings in my code?
So if you have an interpolated string where you want to replace holes in the string with values of variables, then you have the syntax with the opening and closing braces. But what if you actually want to have the literal opening and closing braces in your string? And the same goes for the quotes. So if you have a double quote in your string, that's actually the limiting beginning or ending of the string. You want with a literal quote in your string, then you need to escape it. And the raw string literals with now an additional feature where you now, as a beginning of the string, you determine, for example, three quotes. So the string starts with three double quotes and ends with three double quotes. And everything within that string that is not three double quotes is actually interpreted as a literal. So if you have like a big, if you want to, for example, in a test, want to evaluate a big JSON for
Mhm.
in an assertion, then this becomes quite readable, in my opinion.
So I no longer have to escape quotes or even double quotes. So
And the same goes with the braces. So you
ah,
can say if I start the string with not one, but for example two dollar signs, then every double open brace is is interpreted as the whole that is then filled by the variable. But if I have three or more or one or less, then it's not. So yeah, it's quite. There will be a lot of dollar signs and double quotes.
oh wow.
And confusion.
Yeah, confusion because we've also been using a feature which is related to interfaces because there's like preview features in .NET already that you can try, which enables interesting behaviors on interfaces where you can also have basically more class-like methods on interfaces, and it looks a bit like you have C++ classes again with multiple inheritance. So also things that I'm quite excited about.
The default implementation of interfaces.
No, it's
Oh.
not default.
I think
It's
it's
now you
called
can.
static members on interfaces.
This
And,
beep idea.
and the first big use case with .NET 7, or so .NET 6 already in preview, will be generic math. So our int32 will implement like 15 interfaces or something.
That's okay, but I'm not a fan about the static methods of interfaces. I
Mhm.
saw enough bad code that happens with extension methods on interfaces. What you can do wrong with this if you use it wrong. So, and it makes breaking for library authors breaking changes is a horror
Mhm.
in that way. So it's a nice feature, but I I think you can't use in application code. Perhaps you can use it, but not in library code because it will break. You have always breaking changes.
We actually have been using that already as a preview feature because something that's in our code base now is we have basically defaults on most model types where we have like ordering of properties or like sort types, which is basically in 98% of cases it's the default, but we want to override it. And we could have done it with default uh, interface members if you had used instances, but if you want to do that in generic types and we want to use it on generic type information, we can actually pull that off the static interface members. So that's quite interesting. But
Yeah. Okay. Okay. But there's probably some cases where it's pretty useful. I've with some of the newer features, I've simply have the idea they could harm more
mm,
than gain.
so
I would be interested. I mean, you're all developers here, and for me, new versions are always confusing because I'm a Google developer. So, which means whenever I do something in development, I have to Google, hey, how is the syntax with the double quotes or with a backslash in a quote or a string or whatever? Because I'm really switching often, mostly between TypeScript, .NET, C Sharp, and a little. I still found some legacy code in Visual Basic Code and a little bit JavaScript and so on. So I'm a typical Google developer. And I would really be interested, how is it with you guys, if there's a new feature coming, what you described currently? I mean, do you really use these features instantly? What about your old projects? What are you doing with your old code?
Card?
Mostly the new features currently in the main projects, I get it with ReSharper. When ReSharper try to explain, hey, there's a new feature, do you want to try it? Or there are other tools, I don't remember, where you can install in Visual Studio and all the new they explain the all new features that you can use. From Igor, from the Grazer user group, I don't know the name from the tool, but this is nice. But mostly the new features, I read the blog post, then I try it, and then I forgot it for the, and then, so I convert the new project to .NET 7, and then I see ReSharper and Visual Studio try to explain me the new features, and then that's how I get the new features in my projects.
That reminds me of a quote of a good friend of mine in Hanover. And he said, he just writes a bunch of code and hits Alt Enter until everything works.
Yeah, you're lucky. I only recognize this feature. I recognize also this feature mostly with ReSharper, and then I have to look up how to turn off the feature because I still have to when cross compile the stuff to .NET Framework 4.6.2, where nothing of the cool shiny stuff is working. Yeah.
That's much fun. Much fun.
That's then the fun part, to turn off these features and the suggestions in ReSharper, but yeah, or Visual Studio tooling.
And there's not only, and the same thing does not just apply to .NET. I think it applies to everything, because I think TypeScript is getting new features basically every other month or so. We have new features of React frameworks, Angular frameworks, Vue. Um, so basically anything changes all the time. So even if you write not so much code and you rely on platform as a service or in software as a service, things change all the time. Like Tony, for example, we're also very lucky to have, because I think you're working with basically every Azure technology.
No,
that's
not
my
really.
understanding.
Not really, but as you said, the fun really begins when you open a project and then a developer colleague comes to you and says, "Did you know that there's a new Angular version out of it? So let's upgrade," and then the fun starts. And that's my daily business, more or less, to upgrade things. And sometimes I really decide, oh, better don't touch it. Just add this one feature and keep it running. Hopefully, it will work for another year or so.
Mm.
So it really depends on the scenario. But for me, upgrading a project and trying out new features is always a lot of effort. I mean, I'm always with you guys when I try out the sample where I see, oh, okay, it seems to work, great. But if I really decide if I update my projects, that's a other question for me at least.
Yeah, we had a similar situation with actually PHP, because we had to take over a client application in order to develop a new version of it, but we had to like maintain the old version because they wanted to choose a different vendor, and it was written in PHP basically 5 something, so something that was already legacy, and we wanted to deploy it somewhere, and basically it's no longer supported. Like there are security issues, and then you need to find platforms to host it on that actually fixes the security issues in the runtime for you. And luckily, Azure still had a version of PHP where they backported all the security fixes to already no longer supported versions of PHP. So that at least when you publish things to app service, you still get these supported versions of PHP that no one even dares to use, but if you have to use it, that kind of saved our behinds in that
It
case.
would be very interesting which big customer paid a lot of money for this. for
That's
this.
reality. Without
Yeah.
Excel, the world economics wouldn't exist,
And access.
and access and all the libraries. You all know the graphics where you have a complete building, skyscrapers are standing on one pole, and that one pole is a library, some NuGet package or something like this.
Left pad for the win.
Left pad, I
Left
remember.
pad for the win. Yeah.
So, but Tony, what are you also excited about? Things that have newly been announced from Microsoft, like at Build or over the last weeks?
For me personally, I like the integration of using services Microsoft provides, like the Azure Communication Services, for example. So I'm able to integrate communications, what we are all used to use in
Mhm.
Teams, for example, into my own applications. Or just simple things like there are new APIs for the graph, where I can consume more services from the Microsoft ecosystem. So that's my personal highlights.
That's great. Yeah, things that have been announced. I think what's also interesting for a lot of people in the Austrian market is also the Azure DevBox, where you have like pre-built develop environments. Because at some of our customers, they basically host remote desktop environments, a Citrix environment with develop environments that are basically integrated into the networks that the developer services need access to. And DevBox is basically the same thing as you build a Docker container. No, you build a Windows image, or you specify what's in the image, and it deploys it to you, and you can integrate it into the same VNets that some other services are hosted into. So I think that's like the extended version of things like code spaces, where you have more control of the infrastructure, but also the full Windows UI and the full Visual Studio. So I think that's something that's very exciting, because I usually also use my iPad from time to time when I'm on the train developing. I actually made Go pull requests to Open Service Mesh on the iPad using code spaces. That was a fun experience. So I'm also excited to seeing more of these development services.
Interesting what you define as fun.
Yeah,
But this is
yeah,
another
I know
question.
when when the new version of Edge was announced, I got pretty excited because I could use my favorite plugin to render JSON files that I like to use in Chrome, but I don't really like to use Chrome for the Google integration. So I showed to people, hey, I can now read JSON files in Edge, and I was the only one excited.
One thing I did not DevBox. Is it still? How do you connect to the stuff? I didn't get it from the announcement. This is a normal MSTSC remote desktop connection to it, or is there something special?
I think currently it's only remote connection, remote desktop connection. But I think in the future they will more integrate it in the Microsoft Cloud or Windows Cloud system as a view.
Mm. From what I understand, it's also that your device has to be compliant if you want to actually connect to it. So I don't think you can connect it from like any device.
No, it's corporate policies probably.
Policies,
Yeah.
policies, policies,
Policies,
policies. Enterprise, enterprise, enterprise.
No, it's because I'm as GitHub code spaces for me. DevBox would be I don't need that beefy notebook or PC at home at work and could use a much more beefier virtual machine. And for that, I always found, but didn't use it much, the remote desktop connection to Azure VMs a little bit user experience lacking.
So what
So we have
We have our
contribution from
we
the audience.
have our Jürgen here also. Come
Do
Jürgen,
I
come
need to?
here that you are also on camera.
No, no, no. I just want
But
to add one sentence to hi everyone here and on the stream. I just want to add one sentence. I think it's pretty much related to what Tony said. So for me the dev box and also the code spaces, what like the real power of it is whenever you usually as a developer we have to change environments, or we are working sometimes we're working with like I used to work with Golang and then with a little bit of TypeScript and with different technologies, and setting up the machine for with all the different dependencies and all the libraries. Exactly, yeah. So that's really difficult. And with code spaces, or the dev box is like code spaces on steroids, something like this. It was a very early announcement, so we don't even know what it is exactly yet. But already code spaces solves these kind of issues where you can have like your at least your let's say development container with all the dependencies, and I think that's really the power. Also that you have a beefy machine if you need it, and if you don't need it you can do it on your iPad if you want, but like the that you can easily switch from one environment to the other. I think that's like that was for me a real game changer.
mm, so I've also seen tweets from people from the Ukraine in like February, March, April, tweeting that Codespaces actually allowed them to keep some projects running or make changes to some websites. So I'm pretty happy to see that this is actually can also be used for humanitarian purposes as well.
I also experienced that people, developers from the Ukraine, this was the only way to work more or less from their places, and also for Russia. You know, we have the problem. We have a lot of enterprise customers, and all of them are withdraw from Russia as fast as possible, and some are still in the process of doing that. And but don't forget about the developers who have to do the work. So this is really the cloud gives them an opportunity or an option to work. So I really think this is a very good approach. I mean, politically, there are many discussions about this, of course, but from a technical perspective, that's a really cool thing. Also to speed up development, as you said, Jürgen.
Yeah, that is amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, speaking of cloud, I think we have new, um, basically cognitive services now. So we've seen the OpenAI systems now providing more APIs. If you've ever used GitHub Copilot, the APIs that are powering Copilot can now be accessed, I think, in a private beta. So I hope this goes public soon, but you can also build your own code completion tools, your own code or instruction understanding code. We've seen interesting demos about that. I'm also pretty excited about new language understanding code using these, it's called the Da Vinci model, also built by OpenAI. So new, fun, interesting AI stuff going on. And I think there's a lot of things you can check out. There's the Microsoft Build Book of News, which lists all the things that have been announced at Microsoft Build. Do you have anything to add that you're excited about?
With the Book of News. But I would also be interested in your opinions. What are your favorite new topics? I mean, here in the audience.
I don't want to interrupt the flow of topics, but I have a question regarding Maui.
Yep.
I haven't tried it yet, but what are possibilities of doing UI test automation with Maui? Because I know there was once there was this Xamarin UI test and this App Center, and are there any new attempts on UI testing Maui applications?
That's the one where I have my problem, because I had the feeling that the testing aspect for Maui was ignored until GA, and then somebody asked, okay, how do we test these things? And then next version was as far as I saw the answer.
Wasn't there a Xamarin Test Cloud or so some time ago?
Yeah, that's from my external view on this, very less supported and only keep alive on the bare minimum. It's the App Center is the successor of Xamarin UI Test. So yeah, theoretically Appium should work, because at the end it's as far as I know, and as far as Xamarin Forms work, they use and render to normal OS components out there, and so Appium should still work there. Yeah, but I saw also some questions about App Center, and sadly I can't remember where I read it, or if I read it on an MVP list or on Twitter, so I can't say anything.
And anyway, you can't remember.
I can't remember, but I don't say anything now. I'm not sure if I'm violating NDAs or not.
I would be interested who here is developing or has developed with Xamarin. One. Oh, a couple of hands. Okay.
2015, since 2015, 14, when it still costs money and was separate company. No,
Yeah.
it's cool stuff.
My question was going into the direction. I think Maui is a great new thing, but on the other side, I personally have the experience. It came a little bit, let's say, late, to say it politely, which means, I mean, we have so many developers out there. There are many Microsoft developers and a lot of open source developers. For example, we had a discussion with a developer, and we are offering a job, and then the developer said, "Well, I'm not interested in Microsoft development. I'm only interested in other development." So what I want to say is, I think Maui is a really great approach, but it comes very late. I think there's so many other technologies out there, like web technologies, who don't do the same. But I'm really interested how good this will work for Microsoft and for Maui. I don't know what's your impression.
So on, only the stuff what I read didn't yet get to play around with Maui, but Maui is the success of Xamarin Forms, so it's not really new. It has another name on it, and some of the targets operating system are now added in Xamarin Forms. There was already a community supported, I think a Linux backend and a Mac OS backend and so on. So now these are in Maui included. So to be honest, I don't get it why it's so brand new. It's there since years.
You know, Microsoft is good at marketing.
It has a different name, and what could be more interesting is because this is one of the backends I don't have, but the Uno platform has. It has a WebAssembly backend. So you get your application, the same application on your phone, and in the browser as a WebAssembly app. So, and as far as I know, I don't have yet a
Nope.
Blazor or WebAssembly backend. So that's where the Uno platform would be more interesting. And there is a video on our YouTube channel about the Uno platform by the CTO of them. Some months ago, we had a meetup with him. Shameless plug. So yeah, it's nothing new, but the community were, I think, after give us Visual Studio in 64-bit version, the next one give us a UI toolkit that works cross-platform. That was this. Sometimes I had the feeling the second most loudest issues of the community, and now there is it there. Let's see if these people who shouted that loud also uses it now.
For me, it's always the choice of the platform. I mean, you have a new project, and then you ask yourself, okay, in which technology should I implement this? And then you often have some server components, as we called it in the back then, like client server application. Then we had all these microservices and so many other approaches. And now you're in the position to say, okay, which technology should I use for that? I need maybe a database. I need some server API backend. I need some authentication about it. Then I have a front end. What do it take for the front end? And it always depends. I mean, that's a common thing. You know, you always have to make a decision. I go into this direction, and then you look at the Microsoft product groups and their products, what they are doing, and then you see, I'm starting to get really confused because look at the Teams client and Electron app where they used Angular. Now they're using, for example, React, and then they have other technologies like Blazor, which is great, and so on. And yes, and then you said they don't even know themselves what kind of technology they're using for this or that. But anyway, in the end, you have to find the right decision for a platform that lasts at least for, let's say, some years.
Yes, and so one reason why I liked Xamarin in the past, still like it, and is still there. The learning curve is if you normal stereotype, my stereotype of .NET developer enterprise has their web forms, WinForms application. Now suddenly you should build an app, and for somebody we need an app. Okay, and then you need to learn the Android iOS ecosystems. You need to learn the language. You need the IDE and everything. And with Xamarin, you can reduce this to only the ecosystem, because you have your IDE that you know how to work with. You have your language. You have C sharp that you know to work with all the features. You don't have suddenly the problem. Okay, now I have to learn Objective C in 3 weeks that I can create an iOS app. And how the heck do I use a Mac? And where is my right mouse button? So extreme, but you
I still
reduce.
didn't find it.
I have a post-it on my Mac that I can lock it and everything.
And you need the first 2 days to remember that the close buttons of the Windows are on the top left corner, not the top right corner. The learning, it's simply the learning curve is so less than going really native in the native ecosystems there. And this is still for me a very big factor why to use Xamarin. And I see us here. We are 1% of the. We are at meetups. We are giving talks, hearing talks. 95%, 90%. Scott Hanselman calls them dark matters developers. They are doing their 9 to 5 job and doing stuff. They have very, because of very valid reasons, not the time to learn stuff in the free time or so, or at company time, and then they need something easy to solve their day-to-day business problems. And for that, if somebody high ups came to the idea, I need an app for my internal application, Xamarin. It's there, file new projects,
Or
done.
.NET MAUI for the world.
Yeah, .NET MAUI now. But that was it.
Yeah.
That is still the big plus point. And so yes, sure, the coolest stuff on the platform. Let's migrate everything to Flutter, or now change from Java to Kotlin because we can. But why?
Yeah. So, but you've mentioned, yeah, people have a .NET background. Xamarin might be a good choice. If people only have web are from a web background, like maybe Xamarin isn't the best choice.
Sure.
Personally, when you try to use things like React Native or so, maybe you will find yourself battling with the runtimes for integrations. So it's a different, because .NET has a different approach to integrating with native features than things like React Native or Flutter. But if you want to build like ads or reusable ad components, that's what Flutter was built for. Because Google wanted to place ads in things and they implemented the Dart language, so they built Flutter. So everything has a purpose because of reasons. Yeah, and we can make different choices. For us, like we have a customer that has a fleet of both Windows and iOS devices. We should support both. MAUI might be a good choice for us, especially since those devices have to work with flaky internet connections, offline support. Even though websites support offline modes, might not be the best idea. We need to talk to some Bluetooth devices. We might talk to some other devices. Could be a good choice. If you want to build an info screen, wrong choice.
And if you don't have to push the applications through app stores, but can deploy it by IT infrastructure, it's much more easier, because then no stupid guidelines are in your way to publish the application. That's one problem. If you make some public applications with Xamarin, at least with Xamarin's forms, to fulfill the UI requirements for Android, not that problem, but from Apple, that's work.
Yeah.
I think another good point for MAUI is that you can easily teach it at university. That the excitement for the students is different when they have their own app on their own device, and you don't have to teach it for iOS, teach it for Android, teach it for Windows Phone in the past. So you can teach just MAUI, and everybody gets his app in the course running on his own device. And the excitement is different when they have to write a website, because it's more complicated. You have to deploy it, and they are more excited, the students, when they can work with Maui or in
Yeah.
the
Especially now
Xamarin.
that you can also build iOS applications from a Windows computer.
Yeah,
It's not native, it's interpreted, but it works mostly.
It only took 20 years.
No, not that.
10 years.
F- 5 years. So I had a customer in Villach, and I had to travel always with two notebooks, with my Windows notebook and my Mac hardware dongle, because you needed a physical Mac for Xamarin development to do anything with iOS. So if this works now without Mac, yay! 4 kilo less in the backpack.
And I guess to me, it's now the big USP for Maui is now it's one set of BTL, one set of tooling. It's like one platform. As an app developer, I guess it's now simpler. There is only this one thing where I can build almost anything with.
Yeah, right. So because Xamarin has been .NET Standard 2.1, so kind of new, but already things like Entity Framework, Entity Framework Core, or newer libraries no longer support .NET Standard 2.1. You have to target .NET Core 3 or higher, or 3.1 or 5, 6, and now this stuff doesn't work on Xamarin apps. So that's also something why I'm excited for Maui, at least as from an upgrade perspective, to ship newer stuff onto the things. Okay.
Did we answer your question? I think we went a little bit overboard.
Drifted away.
Good. That happens if you have five speakers in front of, and we all like to talk too much.
That happens when you invite people that are recognized because they talk a lot to meeting, and then they only talk. Speaking of talking, do we have any other questions? Something that's burning on your tongue that you want to get out?
I see a comment from in the chat about App Center is in maintenance mode. Use the agents to run tests with any widely used framework. So that the App Center is in maintenance mode, said somebody in the chat. Good, yeah. Does that the viewers on Twitch and YouTube have still some questions to us? It takes also a little bit time of streaming day, so back to the audience. Any questions? Any .NET Azure related question?
So the message is .NET Maui for the world. Yes, this is the message we all want to take away. It was a very nice,
Yes.
When
very nice session.
I'm with that when I see in the example applications test code.
Yeah. Otherwise, if you want to learn something about Xamarin or XAML or .NET, there's lots of great content on Microsoft Learn. Also something that has recently helped me pass some new Azure certifications and level up using these experience things. So kind of fun. Highly recommend you check it out. So then I think we can close the discussion round. Do you have some parting words or slides, or?
Only one quick question, because we talked not so much of .NET Maui and yeah, .NET Maui. Would be a talk in the future about dedicated talk about .NET Maui be interesting?
Yes.
Good. We always look. We need input. What topics we should present and
What you
at
want
the
to
meeting.
hear about.
What you want to hear. It's not about us what we want to talk about. It's what you want to hear about. So we need the input. And cool. So let's see.
Great. Just a suggestion for the top. What would be really great is to not start a greenfield project, but really to migrate a Xamarin project to .NET Maui and then present the learnings. Because I think starting from fresh is always the easy way. But I don't know if like someone can do it, but that would be like awesome.
We might have to do it like after November 2023. So things that are coming up.
Good. We got not a question on chat. So, a moment, I show it in the video. So, James is asking maybe a bit of a callback now, but how did you find using the static interface methods? Was it better from a memory optimization standpoint over abstract methods?
So it depends on what you're doing. If you're using abstract methods, or let's say it this way. If you need to do something that is based on a type, those static members can help you in instances where you don't or cannot really use abstract methods. Or technically, it is an abstract static method behind the scene. But things like when you want to attach metadata, for example, to an object, you would use things like attributes on an object. When you have like an enum and you annotate it as flags, things like that, and you want to check, hey, does that type implement something? And you, for example, you write a generic method, you don't know what type is passed into it. So like you have a method T implementation, you don't know what it is. You have like T implementation and you specify a generic condition. So like, yeah, that class that you're passing has to implement this interface. You still don't know what the class does. You can instantiate a new type, you can instantiate an instance, but for example, I can then on my T something, I can call dot that static method. I can't do that with abstract methods. I can't do that with anything that interfaces previously supported. I could only do this with reflection or with like some other maps, some dictionaries where I basically attach some metadata to the type. But if I want to have something like a method on a type and call it in generic places where I don't really know what type I'm passing, then it's difficult. So I think we will have to explore that more on sessions related to C# 11 because it's really hard to demonstrate without writing code.
Or perhaps also operators. So you can implement operators on an interface, and then you can add these t's if you can subtract literally not with a method dot subtract but minus those t's if they are constrained to that interface. Yeah.
So helpful mostly in generic situations where you don't have instances of objects, or you have instances, or you have to call methods on the type and not the actual instance. So that's something interesting.
Yeah, we need a dedicated
Yeah.
meetup about these features because
It's a whiteboard coding interview now.
no, we don't talk about these things. Good. I had the comment. Good. No other questions. Good. Then I think let's end this.
Yeah, right.
For the day.
For everyone that has participated, we do have a survey that we want you to complete.
Wait. So first, now we need. Thank you to the podium for the discussions.
Thanks for having us.
So now I need to share the screen, and now you're jumping 10 slides ahead. So give me the right focus. Good. Let's one after another. So thank you all for listening today here in person and on stream. Thank you for joining. Thanks again to our sponsors, Rubicon and Theater Avery and JetBrains. James on YouTube. You were the only one that took part in the raffle. You won the JetBrains license. So please send me an email to team@dot .NET Devs AT. I try to enter this in chat. Then I will send you a license code. And yeah. So if you want to host a meetup in the future, please go to Raul, Stefan, Martin, or me, or contact us also. We're always looking for locations like these here. Next meetups for July, we're in discussions about a topic. Let's see. And August, September is still open. What we are doing. If you have suggestions about topics or want to give a talk, please reach out to us. And always also tell us simply what you were interested in, and we will find a speaker for it. So, no, it's not you come up with a topic and then you have to give the talk. No, we only want to hear what you want to hear. Good. Related to .NET, yeah. We can also do some Scrum Master discussions or general architectural stuff. So .NET and software development, let's say. So, yeah, please spread the word that we are doing these events every month. This helps us. And again, website, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Slack. And now that's the part, Martin. So we have this time we have two meet feedback forms for you. The first is the one from I'm looking for my mouse. Microsoft for these MSBuild after parties. Hey, I have a second hand now. So now is also the link in the chat. That would be great if you could fill this survey out for Microsoft. And the second one is for I hate stuff. Is for us as we always want to improve our meetups. We have also a feedback form. And with that, you have the chance to win one of the Hey Friends t-shirts. It's limited to Austria because of postal costs, sending costs. So, but yeah, if you at the end you have the option to take part in the raffle, and then you have the chance to win one of the t-shirts. I think, yeah, 2 or 3 are still left, so there are some chances left for you to win. And yeah, with that, we are at the end. Thanks again for joining us today, and we hope to see you in the next one. Bye. I still don't find my mouse. Stop streaming.